That's like
Yeah.
a higher level of my understanding of the rendering of it.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, speaking of technology, I think I've finally figured out how to link up this to the thing we're supposed to link up to. So rest assured, in the future, in the future, we'll know what we're doing. But it's always the case. Hopefully, the quality. Maybe if someone's watching at the moment, if you guys who are watching, can you comment? Do we look like we're in sync with our lip sync? Is the audio quality coming through okay? Um, we've got Stephen on here to have someone who looks more attractive than Tim and myself to actually show, just the quality of the video come through in a way that's more presentable. If you're just judging it based upon me and Tim, it's like, well, it kind of looks a little bit crappy, but that could just be these two guys with their big bald heads. Um, so yes, exactly.
no.
It's all good, except no Tim. Yeah, Tim's having trouble with his internet, so he's just going to be sitting there in the background, hanging out, chilling, but not being visual. Just so you know, it's now on 2 places on YouTube because I figured that out. It doesn't help anyone except for the 15 people that are sitting on the original link watching it. But yeah,
Hopefully they're migrating over here by now.
hopefully, yeah. So I'll just put the link again in the. If you're watching in the original spot, go to the link with the new spot. And I don't know, I'm going to get Stephen. I'm going to get so much trouble from Lucy. She's like, we set this up. What are you clowns doing? What's going on over there? And I'm tempted just to talk about Draggy Dog and but to distract people, but we shan't. I want
So I've
to.
got a couple more questions about Unreal 5 because Unreal is the one engine I haven't messed with yet. I haven't taken any courses, I haven't touched it, but I am consistently kind of paying attention to indie games and what makes them successful. And one of the things that constantly happens with any kind of success is usually there's some kind of visual aesthetic kind of differentiation there, right? And Unreal has a major visual and aesthetic advantage usually over other engines. And so I'm super fascinated in all the technology that comes out of Unreal. And it's exciting that Unreal 5 came out, and I know there's a bunch of cool tools and stuff. Stephen, you mentioned a bunch of different tools and stuff, but are there any besides like Lumen and the QuickSwan stuff that you were thinking of that can help with just making your game look pretty, just looking good in general, like any kind of post processing or anything at all like that?
I mean, there's always going to be effects that you can make, materials, Niagara effects, and things like that that are really going to add that juice to your game. Um, there's been this sort of moving away from Cascade and moving into Niagara, and Niagara is it's the new visual effects, the new VFX system for particle systems. They call them Niagara systems with emitters, and it's something that doesn't require C++ scripting. I mean, you can do your own program, your own shaders if you're a shader programmer. You're super like that level of skill. But that's like a next level deeper. But the Niagara system is designed for tech artists basically to create these just amazing looking VFX particle systems. These are the things that make the game pop on top of the whole
Right.
Lumen system, right? And those are more artist centric, even though they can get technical. You do have these math libraries exposed inside that can allow you to do your math shenanigans to get your the effects you want. But that's something that like non-technical or non-programmery people can like sort of start digging into and start diving into to make that game just get that extra level of juiciness. So that's one thing. And then of course like the in editor animation stuff is going to be a really good thing to jump onto because you have just the ability to sort of tweak. I mean, there's a lot of free assets out there, right? And those are like a staple to new game developers because you're
Right.
always going to need animations, assets. But anyone who's done their fair share of asset flips, which if you're not aware what an asset flip is, it's a game that you created with all free assets from marketplace sources or online free sources, right? So anyone who's done their fair share of asset flips has found that their turn in place animation isn't quite right. Their aim offsets aren't exactly how they want them, and
Yeah.
Unreal Engine's, sort of bridging that gap for people with their control rig system, where you can essentially create full body or partial body IK systems with controls, where you can, link them up to gameplay logic and get that foot to get that IK on your feet, so you can stand on a curved surface or stand on steps and, have the leg bend up like the Captain Morgan guy. So those kinds of things are becoming more accessible, more easy to incorporate, and those are the little things that kind of add, those little details add that juiciness to your game as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the more artist-centric kind of features that they're kind of continuing to evolve and support and make a lot more capable, that are really
Yeah. I'll
gonna.
never forget when sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
I
you.
don't know.
Internet, it was fun. But I remember when Assassin's Creed Black Flag came out, and they had all of the walk and run animations were fantastic, but specifically when you would like walk or run in water, and like the deeper in water you got, it would change the animation, and like that was so subtle, but it was so like it added so much to the immersion of like the game, because
Mhm.
it didn't feel like so many run animations are like consistent as you're running in water, and it looks off, and you just remember you're in a video game, and it's just like GTA physics kind of stuff that just makes it unrealistic. But yeah, that stuff goes a long way, like for sure. Instead of your foot protruding through the surface, it's actually on the surface.
Mhm.
I
It,
could see how
it's
that'd be
those
useful and super cool.
it's those things that you don't notice when they're done right, but if they're not done, if
Yeah.
the feature isn't there, then you're like, okay, this character is kind of hovering there on the stairs, and the one foot's like, it's like the cartoon where you run off the cliff and you're just standing there for a second before you fall, but they don't fall, kind of thing. Yeah, so it's those things. It's like a thankless job, right? It's like you don't notice when
Yeah.
it's done right, but you definitely notice if it's an eyesore, right? So,
So I'm going to jump in there. You guys are going to hate me. Everyone's going to hate me. But we've in chat. I don't know if you guys are following in chat, but we've figured out our technology. This is easily I was going to say the worst live stream technical mishap performance that we've had, Stephen. But honestly, this probably doesn't even rate in the top 10 of
No, it's not up there.
this is so people can see us and hear us. That is like, we're already, in the top 90 percentile. So just so people know who are watching this stream, we had some hiccups at the start. We're talking to Stephen, who is one of our instructors here at GameDev.tv, also has his own courses. We're going to talk about all that stuff in a moment, pretty soon. We're also talking about Unreal Engine 5, which is launched properly launched. We've been able to use it for the last few months in preview format, and it's pretty much the same as the one that's launched. So we've been playing around with it a bunch. We've created courses in it and been using it, and we're grilling Stephen on these topics. Now, if you're listening in live at the moment, I'm going to ask you to go from the illegal bootleg clone version back into the proper version. So have a look in your chat right at the moment. I'm going to give you a link. If you see a link, that means you're in the wrong one. You're in the cloned one. You're in the one that's going to break at some point and not work properly. Please click on that link and go to the proper. They're both streaming right at the moment. One of them I'm going to remove and delete because having two streams is pretty ridiculous, even for Tim and my standards. Yes, Tim, I'm looping you into that. So
I don't know how you managed to stream twice to the same YouTube channel.
Tim, don't go there. Like, who's responsible for this mishap at the moment. Okay, who's going to be the person in charge? Okay, Tim, it's going to be you. It's a big responsibility. I got it, Rick. Not to worry. I'm on it. Hey, Rick, my internet's broken. So anyway, look at that. It's us being absolute clowns. So, but that's why people. I was going to say that's why people are here. It's not why people are here. So please go back to the shiny version. I'm going to give you the link one more time, and then at some point for the non-shiny version, I'm going to close it down. So if you find that you're completely stuck, then please jump to the original link we had right from day one. And like I said, big old gong show, but hopefully anytime soon we'll get it all figured out. So that being said, I'll give people a minute to transition back to the right one. We're talking about Unreal Engine 5. Stephen, let's talk about the course that we worked on, the Blueprint course, and then I want you to talk a little bit about your other courses that are hot to trot at the moment. So we've created the Unreal Engine Blueprint first-person shooter, nice condensed course. Is it about 8 hours?
It's about 12. Yeah.
12. Okay. Look at you,
Yeah.
huh?
A little bit bigger.
Rick, it's 5 or 6 hours.
Still
There's 12
compact,
hours of
but
goodness in there, which is really fantastic if you want to get in there, play around with Unreal Engine 5 and make a simple first person shooter just in Blueprint, just playing around in Blueprint. So check that out on the GameDev.tv site. You'll see it's called the Unreal Engine first person shooter blueprint course or something to that effect. I know, Stephen, you've also been smashing away at your own latest and greatest course, which can you tell us a little bit about that? It's not a GameDev.tv course, but it's got you in it, so it's going to be awesome. And what's the scoop with that one?
Yeah, so it's a Unreal Engine 5 C++ course, and it's on multiplayer. It's a multiplayer shooter course, so it's kind of a good segue from the other shooter courses you may have been taking, whether they're the Blueprint one or some of you have taken my other shooter content. But this is all about multiplayer, and it's about essentially taking you from zero knowledge of multiplayer to all of the knowledge of multiplayer. So it's got a ton of features. We're creating a completely from scratch project and making use of all the gameplay classes that have to do with multiplayer and putting all the right data and functions in all the correct classes to get the working multiplayer sessions working. So we make a multiplayer plugin. So I show you how to make a plugin, how to add a plugin to another project. This plugin is a sessions plugin. It uses Unreal Engine's online subsystem, which is a abstraction layer. It's basically a way for you to connect to a service like Steam, like Epic Online Services, like Xbox Live. It's basically this layer that is all Unreal Engine code base that you configure your project for Steam or EOS or Xbox Live or whatever service you choose. And our plugin will search for and create sessions, find sessions, join sessions. And essentially, you just have this multiplayer login menu that allows you to join a session or create a session. And so it just enables multiplayer. So we create that. That's like section one. And then we just make the game from there. So it's like two main parts to the course is one, you make a plugin. You can add that plugin to any project you want and make it capable of hosting sessions, joining sessions, using whatever service you want, whether it's Steam or anything else. And then the second part of the course is actually making the game. And you can actually skip the first part and just download the plugin and make the game, or you can take it in a linear manner. But yeah, it's a full-on multiplayer course, custom game mode, custom match states, warm-up states where you fly around the level waiting for the timer to go down, and then you start the match. We have teams deathmatch, free-for-all, capture the flag, and jump buffs, pickups, speed buffs, shields, and then like 7 different types of weapons, including rocket launchers, grenade launchers, throwing grenades, shotguns, sniper rifles, SMGs, assault rifles, all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, it's a lot. It's I could probably talk for hours about it, but it's all that you want to know about multiplayer. But one other thing I'll mention before we move on is the lag compensation section. So the thing about fast-paced competitive shooters is they have to be optimized for networking, especially in the presence of high lag. So there's a whole section on lag compensation, client-side prediction, server-side rewind, where the server actually rewinds to verify hits to give everyone credit for their shots. And then we talk about the caveats and pros and cons to using these techniques. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, and I do have a coupon link that I can
Yeah, people are asking
provide.
for links in the chat.
So here is a coupon link posted by me, Druid Mechanics, and yeah, check it out and watch the promo video. It talks a lot about some of the features, gives you some footage, shows you the assets that we use, um, and it works in Unreal Engine 5.0, the just released today version. I upgraded to that as soon as it was available and ran a session connected to two machines via Steam and did a little death match and everything works. So it's pretty exciting. It's a big project I've been working on for a couple of months now. So a few months.
Nice. You're the
That's
master
really
of doing
cool, man.
big courses as well. You love these mega hour courses. So people are getting a lot of depth, lots and lots of depth in these courses. So where did you put that link? I'm not seeing it. Oh, okay.
Let's see. Hopefully I'm not in the wrong chat.
Possibly.
You're in the bootleg
I've
chamber.
I've shut down the wrong stream now. So there is only one stream.
Okay, good. So I did put a Udemy coupon link here. But I don't know if yeah, it should work.
Can you fire it over to me directly?
Yeah,
And I'll make sure it's in the YouTube one as well. And we'll have this, anyone watching later on, we'll put this in the description down below. So you'll absolutely be able to get it down there, and just popping it into, there we go. Popped it into the YouTube thingy as well. And it's there. Okay. So we see it in there. Sorry, we're still working out our technology. Hopefully this is better. We've had this cobbled together nasty Discord plus Skype solution for a while. Now we're using an actual proper streaming approach. Unfortunately, Tim's not here in real life. He's just in here, and I just noticed I glitched a little bit on my video just then. So we're getting there. Thanks for helping us trial this out, Stephen. And we'll get you back on.
absolutely.
I was going to say in a couple of weeks when we've figured it all out, but it might be in a year's time. You can come back and when it's actually working.
And it seems to be working now. I don't know. Is this connected? This is connected to YouTube and the other. Is it connected to Twitch as well?
Just YouTube for the moment, Steve.
Okay. Yeah, I see a bunch of icons at the top.
Managed to stream to YouTube twice, though.
We can connect.
We'll try not to break it right now.
It's interesting. Can you connect it to Discord as well? That would be an interesting thing to do.
It would
connect in a few places. So you know what? 2 comments that we have to note here, Stephen. Someone just said Rick is awesome, and someone said Stephen is a great instructor. So wow, even when we're being ridiculous, there's a wonderful people in our community. Sorry, Tim, no love for you. I think because your video is not here. People are like, oh yeah, that Tim guy.
They're like, who's the gray box there?
So Stephen,
people know that.
A couple of things I want to talk about. We've got a bunch of Unreal Engine 4 courses. You've got a bunch of Unreal Engine 4 courses. Whenever there's a new version of software, people are like, oh my goodness, I have to learn in the newest version of the software. If it's an Unreal Engine 4 course, it's not going to work. I'm going to be confused. It's not going to make sense. And what we know as instructors is the engines are nearly always identical. Maybe a button's in a slightly different position or a little bit of a different layout. Can you tell us the difference between UE4 and UE5 for someone who's just getting in there and saying, okay, how does it look different? Is it completely turned upside down? Is it going to be confusing? We can also, at any point, if you want to do a screen share so people can see what's going on with our fancy video technology here, we can give that a try. I'm a little bit nervous, but we can give it a try. If there's anything you actually want to show on the screen, then please do, and we'll figure out how to make that work. But can you follow a UE4 course while doing while in Unreal Engine 5?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's the difference?
Yeah, so it's the same engine. Of course, there are some changes, and usually those changes pop up in the form of a little compiler warning or a compiler error here or there. But I've literally converted entire projects. Like, when I say an entire project, I'm talking like one of my giant course projects, like my Ultimate Shooter project or this particular new multiplayer project, converting from an old version to a new version. Of course, this latest one I made in UE5 early access and then converted to this one without issues. But I've taken a UE4 project, my Ultimate Shooter series, and converted to Unreal 5. And there are a couple of changes. There are a couple of minor things. And by a couple, I mean out of over thousands of lines of code, like 2 things I had to change. And they're small. I mean, some variables are now wrapped in a new type of pointer smart wrapper. That's called a T-object pointer, and it's basically like your other pointer wrappers. If you're familiar with wrappers, it's like instead of taking your pointer and using the arrow operator to access a function on that object, you access it through this T object pointer that's wrapping it. So you say .get and then arrow access function or variable. So it's like there are a couple of inherited variables in these engine classes that have that, but it's almost like stuff you'll never even see or run into once or twice. And IntelliSense will hover, pop up, and if you're aware of that one thing alone, the T object pointer, you're going to be fine. And then there's minor things like now that there's large world coordinates, right? There's open world support. We're moving more towards using doubles instead of floats. And if for the
Doubles
not,
instead of floats. Why would that be? Do we need more decimal places or less decimal places, or
I don't think it's as much that we need them. It's as much as we're embracing that technology can handle larger data now.
okay?
And yeah, it's basically like our computers are growing up and we can handle doubles instead of floats now. But that's not to say that you can't use floats, but things like the built-in the F vector, the vector class Unreal Engine uses, previously was X, Y, and Z were floats. Now
Mm.
X, Y, and Z are actually doubles.
Oh,
So
okay.
kind of
Yeah.
interesting. It's like your
It's
code,
like,
if you're yeah,
sorry,
it's like
I was gonna say nonsense, so I feel really bad interrupting you. But it's like when you have a party and you're like, okay, I've invited 20 people, but let's just get 100 paper plates and cups, just in case everyone turns up.
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe Rick won't be crying in the corner because he's got no friends. Maybe some people will turn up. So that's a little bit of the Unreal Engine 5 philosophy. It's like, you never know, this might be huge, so get ready for it.
Mhm. Exactly. That's exactly it. It's like you can still make your little projects, but if you want your little projects to be little big projects, then you're covered there.
Right.
So
Yeah, awesome. And there's a lot of we love Tim Ruswick happening in the chat as well. So Tim, it's not just the visible people that are
Rick,
getting the
stop
love.
making stuff up.
No, there was someone was like, "Oh yeah, I know Tim. Yeah, that's positive. That's like that's good." Reading between the lines, that person's like, I know Tim, right? Huh? Intonation.
he's like, I see you, Tim.
I see you, Tim.
I see
Uh,
you through your window.
so
That's
Stephen, when
creepy.
we talk to the Unity folks, so people who are into Unity and using Unity engine, etc., so Unity students or game developers, we often talk about multiplayer and what's the state of the nation with Unity multiplayer. In our multiplayer course for Unity, we use Mirror, which is a third-party tool. The
Mhm.
Unity multiplayer system is kind of getting there, and there's all this kind of, oh, it's coming soon, or it's going to be good soon, or one day it's good soon. Does Unreal multiplayer, and this is what you have in your course that you were talking about before, does it just work out of the box? Is it just like you're in the engine using Unreal's multiplayer? You don't need to go and sort of explore the dark web to find a solution for multiplayer, or are there third-party plugins that you use for multiplayer for Unreal?
Yeah, this is one of Unreal's major strengths is its multiplayer system is really good out of the box. It's like the legacy system that's been evolved over the years since the days of Unreal Tournament. So, you've got this really well architected multiplayer system, no plugins necessary. But that being said, there are some things that I think should be supported that you would have to do custom, which would be things like connecting to a database. Like, say you have a SQL, SQL database, and you want to just connect to it. There's no like database module where it's like, okay, here's our database library, reach a table and grab these values. It's that would be something you'd have to make from scratch. But aside from that, the actual gameplay programming and the online sessions connecting to online services is all very much well evolved and built into the engine, just out of the box, which is kind of amazing. So yeah, that's something that Unity is going to try to catch up with, and they'll get there, but that's just one of those major pluses that Unreal just already has. So
Gotcha.
Does Does Unreal have because I've used a lot of multiplayer plugins and some of them are like super like I have to send packets back and forth, and then
Hmm.
some of them are like literally you add a cube and it's on both people's screens. Like where
Hmm.
along that spectrum is Unreal's multiplayer, would you say?
It's kind of a happy medium between those two. So you have the ability to make everything in Unreal Engine that is in your level is an actor, right? And you have classes that are more basic than actors that can't be placed in the level, U objects, but everything that's an object in your level is an actor. So you can, if you work from the blueprint side, things are really easy. You can check boxes and say, this is a replicated actor. And if you spawn it on the server, that action of spawning it on the server will propagate to all clients. And if you mark properties, if you mark variables on that actor as replicated, then if you change them on the server, they will automatically change on clients. Um, but as far as like sending packets, the packets and serialization is abstracted away under the replication and RPC system. So you have something called a remote procedure call or an RPC. And there are three main types of them. There are client, server, and net multicast RPCs. And an RPC is kind of nice because it's Unreal Engine's multiplayer system way of handling the packets and the serialization for you. It's like, a client RPC is a function designed for you to call on one machine and have it executed on somewhere else, like call the
Oh,
function on the
okay.
server, execute it on the client kind of thing. And
That's
so
cool.
you can configure them in different ways. Like there's like a nice handy chart in the documentation that shows you like if you call a client RPC on the server on a server owned actor, then it will execute, you know, on the client. If you call a server RPC on a, server owned actor on a client, and it's just, there's just like this logical set of rules for where it would be executed. So that in addition to being able to mark these RPCs as reliable or unreliable, sort of abstracts away the is it UDP, is it TCP, is it basically
Right.
reliable is what it sounds like. You'll get confirmation that those packets were received at their destination and they sent back confirmation. And then unreliable is like fire it off and if it gets dropped, who cares, kind of thing. So you do have a decent amount of control over what you're doing and how it works, but it's not as low level as you know serialize this into a serialized packet and then break the packets into smaller packets if it's too big a chunk of data and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about
Yeah.
that kind of low level. So it's a nice like happy medium, I think.
Yep. And for
Cool.
anyone
That's
who's
good stuff.
joining the
And you're
stream now, sorry, Tim. Just anyone who's joining the stream now, we're talking with Stephen Ulibarri, who is talking about Unreal Engine. He's an instructor here with us at GameDev.tv, and also an instructor of his own accord. Has a YouTube channel. All good things. Make sure you're looking for. Is it Druid Mechanics? Is
That's
the
correct. Yes.
Druid Mechanics? So at Druid Mechanics on Twitter and also on YouTube. And check out Steven's stuff. We're talking about Unreal Engine 5. And of course, I've messed up the stream and the technology and a few things. So maybe this is the first time that you've seen us actually introduce who is this Steven guy. And we've got Tim, who's having internet issues today and was about to ask another question of Steven before I rudely interrupted. So, Tim, do you have a question for Steven?
No, I was just going to tell him that his course covers all that stuff from start to finish, right? Like
Mhm.
I don't know anything about Unreal to I have a finished multiplayer game.
It's not, I don't know anything about Unreal. I do expect that you have some understanding of, first of all, like C++ basics. Like you should
Okay.
have familiarity with like creating functions and variables, classes, and it would help if you had a little bit of Unreal experience. So it's not like a total beginner course, but I wouldn't mark it as intermediate because it's not. It's like you're basically logging into Unreal Engine not for the first time. You've maybe created a few actors. You've added some functions to your actors. You've created a character with basic movement. Now you're ready to jump into multiplayer. And so what I do
Dude, this looks
is
sweet.
So
Yeah,
this
so
we're showing at the
this is
moment
the
on,
actual
yeah,
yeah,
this is Stephen.
this was a test session I did with 19 players all across the world in different regions. So we're all hooked up. Everyone is hooked up. They had Steam running, and then just launched my executable, and essentially just started, firing away at each other. Here's my plugin that I show you how to create, and the plugin is nice because it basically has you do all the setup that you need any multiplayer project to have in order to connect with some online service, excuse me, some online service, and get you connected with other people. So here you can see like I have like 18 people in a lobby there. And then you can just like drop that plugin into any project. It's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you want a multiplayer project. Just make it once, make it into a plugin,
Wow.
and then just kind of drop it in and use it there. So, and then those assets that you saw, the little hooded figure and stuff, Unreal recently released something called Unreal Learning Kit Games. It's a free asset pack, and you'll see it in a lot of tutorials. You'll see it in the new C++ Unreal Engine 5 C++ remaster, the GameDev.tv one. Sam uses some of those in some of the level creation there. So really great, beautiful assets, especially when you turn on Unreal Engine 5 Nanite and Lumen, and you get everything just working, and just the colors really pop, and it looks great. So yeah, so that's oh, and I was gonna say it's basically creating everything from scratch though. It's like you open up a empty project, create an empty character class, create an empty actor for the weapon, and then just one by one add each line of code. And I kind of take it in baby steps, like what is replication, in fact, what is the internet, what is ping, what is lag. So I kind of just it's like it's not that you're a
Wow.
beginner to Unreal or to programming, but you're a beginner to multiplayer and networking. You don't know anything about that, I'll
Right.
take you from the beginning and kind of run with you up to the top.
So with that being said, do you have a course that a complete beginner would start at?
I do, and so does Game Dev actually. I have a couple of what I tend to like to do if you want to be a C++ programmer. I tend to like teaching people the C++ side first, um, rather than like jump into Unreal and
Okay.
okay, here's what the C++ language is. So I have a couple of those. One that was with me and GameDev.tv, the C++ fundamentals course. We create several small 2D games in just C++ and Raylib, which is like a really super simple, easy to use game engine. And then I have a course called Learn C++ for Game Development, which is a little bit more distance covered as when it comes to the technicalities of C++. The idea is to be ready to jump into Unreal Engine C++ by that point. So both of those are really good for beginners. And then, of course, I have other C++ Unreal Engine courses, which are Unreal Engine 4 courses currently. My multiplayer course is the Unreal Engine 5 course that I have. But as we mentioned
Okay.
earlier, all of that stuff still translates to Unreal 5. All the code is the same. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I do have several others, and quite a few. There are quite a few really good Game Dev TV courses, and some including me as well. So lots of good stuff out there.
There are a lot, including you. As you said, I don't know if we've announced it yet. I think we have, but our big old introductory C++, right from the very what's a computer? Well, maybe not that rudimentary, but the one that you and Sam have worked on that we've had around for a long time. If you currently own that course, you'll get the remaster in Unreal Engine 5, which is cool. Sam's working on all new sections for the first few sections because we found a couple of like bull cow. I don't know if anyone's done bull cow, but I don't know, just wasn't the sexiest way to start a course. So we've changed things. We've got new sections in there. Toon Tanks is still the Unreal Engine 4 Toon Tanks, but at some point in the near future, where Stephen's going to dive in there and give that some Unreal Engine 5 love as well. So that's a great place for starting off. And then, as you're talking about before, Stephen, the the Blueprint shooter course that you created with GameDev.tv is a great starting point in the shooter world, and then that flows nicely into your big mega C++ multiplayer shooter course that you were talking about before. So there's a whole bunch of ways to bounce around. Check out obviously GameDev.tv, jump in there.
That's
Make sure
right.
make sure you join our email list if you want to get the latest coupons and deals and discounts and all that kind of stuff. I think most people watching at the moment know all these things. They know how to access all the good stuff, but make sure you also check out Stephen's YouTube channel. Are you still active on YouTube much, Stephen? I know Tim and I have kind of not been doing much on YouTube for a while.
Yeah, not as active. I have been putting I'm doing a couple live streams here and there. Finishing up this multiplayer course, I've been pretty much silent for like the last month or so. But I did promote this new course with the promo video on there, and so yeah, I'll hopefully do some more live streams soon. But yeah, you were talking about the C++ master remaster. That bull cow was awesome, but Sam is definitely working to make that quite a bit sexier now. So there's some really exciting new sections coming up for the remaster that look super fun.
Yeah.
So.
And the other Unreal thing we're working on at the moment, just a really quick little course, is just talking about using Quixel and the assets to make a level, just a very basic level design, level layout. How do you make it look good? Environment design. So we've got it's not yet finished, so I don't want to promise anything, and it's just a quick course. But anyone who's like, I just want to, I don't want to learn programming yet, or I want something that just, how do I put things in there and make them look pretty? So we're working on a little course for that as well. So I think we've been talking about our courses and stuff for a while now. Let's get back to UE5, get back to questions. If anyone in the chat has a question for us, then please throw it in there now, so that we know what's what, and we'll get Stephen to answer any questions that you guys have about Unreal Engine, about Stephen, about life, about why can we not see Tim, about dogs that may drag themselves. So
I see one question. This question from Operation Gamma it says, since the UE5 comes with an out-of-the-box multiplayer shooter blueprint project of its own, Lyra, would you consider doing a review of it and comparing design differences between it and GameDev.tv ones? So I looked at Lyra. That was one of the first things I did this morning when I downloaded 5.0. And think of this as like the shooter game, the multiplayer shooter game that was out since, for years now for Unreal Engine 4. This thing is not something that a beginner can open up and look at and make any sense of. This thing is like super modular, lots of plugins, uses the game playability system, which is very, very complex. It is not a blueprint project. It's got tons of C++ classes, tons of very advanced techniques in there. And it's great for someone who is very experienced, who wants to reverse engineer it. But check it out, download it, play it, look at the code, generate the Visual Studio project files and look at the C++ classes. This thing is not for beginners. It's definitely got a lot of good assets, though, that you can use if you are starting, if you take one of our shooter courses and you're like, hey, this has like all these animations and stuff, and it's got guns and stuff like that. It's definitely good for that. But check it out. You'll see very quickly that it's not something that you would, it would be a good thing to break down, but it would be a very extensive breakdown. This thing is not a small project.
So we find that a lot. It's the same with Unity. When you look at a Unity kind of starter project, or even their game kits, like the 2D game kit or 3D game kit, there's a little bit of, it's a level designer. I can get in there and move a couple of things around and play a game. This is fun. But they haven't made it in a very friendly way to get in there and understand the code and change the code, because that's not really its purpose. It's more of here's a big old framework, or here's us wanting to show you what you can do with this. And so it's not so good from a learning point of view, I find. And it sounds like what you're talking about with this shooter project that comes with isn't necessarily a great place to get in there and to sort of dig around. Unless you're more advanced, maybe then you could get in there and, how did they set this up, or how do they set that up? And one of the realities, I think, or the truths there's a lot of programmers out there who aren't quite as organized and careful and as good with naming and as diligent as maybe we are when we're trying to teach folks, because we can't teach you just call your variable a, that's fine, don't worry about it. But sometimes you get into code and you're like, that surely if it's in the engine or if this is official from Unreal or Unity, it must be good stuff. Someone must have looked at this and they've had a big meeting with 7 people and very senior folks and said, okay, we are happy calling the variable a. But it doesn't work that way. There's some programmer who's like, this is the way I do things. Shut up, it works. It's amazing. I know what I'm doing. So sometimes it's not created for the viewer in mind. It's created for the functionality. So something to be mindful of.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the design patterns too. Design patterns for sort of the more advanced and more professionally developed projects. The design patterns are designed to be more reusable, more scalable, and more expandable for a real, AAA sort of project. But they're not that great for beginners, because a beginner project would be like, here's the character and here's the weapon and here's its running speed, and it's like nothing, everything's on the character class or whatever, just a really bad example of your typical like YouTube beginner tutorial. It's like, let's make a character and let's put everything on the character class, right? The whole game. So yeah, it's once you get
Sometimes the
into
functions are so general too that like rather than have one function that's like shoot, it's like a function that's like spawn bullet and then move bullet and like 10 million different versions of it versus like a easily human understandable thing.
right.
Yeah. So there's a few more questions surfacing, bubbling around at the moment. One that I've seen asked is about migrating your projects from UE4 to UE5. So if you're working on your game, say for example, you've been, working on your passion project for 6 months and it's coming along well. Do you believe it's safe to migrate from UE4? I know you've talked about this a little bit in terms of what you've done, but can you do you have confidence that it's safe to migrate projects from UE4 to UE5? And is there any specific tricks people need to be thinking of when they do that migration?
I recommend definitely backing up the project, making a copy, and then migrating or converting the copy and keeping your old copy. That's just a good rule of thumb in general. Um, if you're going to make a major change from one software version to another, do it with a copy or a backup first, and make sure. Also, if you're using version control, that's definitely a plus, and I highly recommend doing that. But either make a new branch or just copy your whole repository and upgrade the new one, upgrade the copy, because if something does go dramatically wrong, in general, you still have the working version, so you won't be trying to, rebuild your life's work after you've lost everything. But yeah, once you've done that, once you're sure that your backup is safe, then go for it. I mean, that's the beauty of making copies, is you can screw things up and then just go back to your working project. And I just recommend upgrade or migrate, whichever, upgrade or create a new project and migrate over, and then compile and see what happens. See if you get compiler errors, and then look at those. And, you know, as usual, sometimes you might have one or two errors that propagate into 1,000 errors. So just keep that in mind, that error propagation doesn't mean you have 1,000 errors. You might have one or two. And then, once you fix those were causing the propagation of thousands of other errors. So, don't panic when you see like a million errors and you're like, oh my God, the project is broken. It's probably one of a couple of key things that are changed with the engine. Either a T object wrapper, like I mentioned before, or maybe you use braced initialization with a float and it's supposed to be a double now because F vector uses doubles. Just like a couple of minor things like that. You didn't use .get instead of accessing the pointer directly. So look for those key things that's like, this is a specific syntax error, instead of just like, couldn't open this file, couldn't open this file. You might want to look for things that could actually be errors, and then find one, fix it, recompile. And then you'll have another list of errors. Find the next one you can fix it, recompile. And I promise you, after like no more than like 5 or 6, okay, I can't promise you anything. Depends on your project. But after like a few of those, you'll get fewer and fewer errors, and then it'll compile. And in my case, I just upgraded without any compiler errors my multiplayer project. I mean, there were no changes from early access to the Unreal 5, and from Unreal 4. Like I said, I had like 2 compiler errors from my Ultimate Shooter course, and those were using .get on a hit result, getting, and it was like hit result .actor, and I had to change it to hit result .get actor, because now it's a private variable with a public getter function. That was it, and then like one other issue.
When we're working on the course I was mentioning before, this little kind of level design using Quixel course, we needed to go get some assets from Marketplace, and they're all, well, many of them are still in UE4. The version says up to whatever 4.27, and so when we imported those into Unreal Engine 5, there was a couple of things I think this was with the character controller. The old way of in UE4, or the old way these assets were created to take in input, the in the blueprint nodes was a little bit different. We just needed to delete that node and bring in whatever the new node is. So there's a couple of those things, like you say, there's a little bit of hunt and destroy when it comes to those issues, but I think they're pretty easy. They're pretty straightforward. So
yeah.
So
There's a
here,
few of those.
straight from Stephen's mouth, convert all of your projects. Don't save them or back them up or use version controls. Like click, Unreal Engine 5, done, and everything will be just fine. Nothing at all can go wrong with that. So
here comes the flood of hate.
oh yeah, that's not what Stephen said. Just joking. Yeah. So that was a question. What other questions do we have in here at the moment? Let's see.
Marcus from Oz wants to know, does UE5 make Unreal more applicable to the mobile market, or is it moving further from it?
I'm not sure about that, honestly. There are always mobile projects that come out that give you the opportunity to sort of, reverse engineer this professionally architected thing. But I wouldn't say they're moving away from it, but it does seem like the majority of the attention is going towards this like forefront of technology thing, where it's like, the pushing the envelope of the absolute best graphics possible. I mean, those of you who watched the State of Unreal this morning, I mean, just look at that Matrix city scene. It's like 86 gigabytes of stuff that are basically available for us for free. So you can like download it and look at it. And we're talking about being inside of a movie reel, So they're kind of giving more attention to the like ultimate forefront of technology right now. And the truth is that mobile is kind of just there and doesn't need that as much right now. I mean, we're kind of caught up to mobile technology. We're kind of waiting for mobile devices to get better at this point, because I don't know if you've seen, but some of the mobile projects on the Learn tab are pretty high fidelity. And for a mobile game, like you're looking at something that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when you were playing your PS2, you weren't looking at something better than what you're looking at today on your phone. That's crazy. But
yeah, you used to be able to get phones and stuff that were huge leaps from a year or two later, but now the phones for the last several years have even had like the same amount of RAM, right? And very similar processors. Like, it's just the technology's slowing down. But Unreal does seem like it's adding system requirements to a lot of their projects too, without the kind of uptick in mobile. So I think, like you said, it's not moving away from it, but at the same time, like it doesn't seem to be their focus. I know Unreal does a lot of they're use it for movie production now. Like, I know Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man had like Unreal scenes and stuff like that. They're rendering scenes live by using like simulated VFX in Unreal Engine because it's so good. So that's pretty cool, but it's not practical for most of us.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of crazy that that Unreal has these capabilities. And we've got huge film teams making actual movies using Unreal Engine. But those of us who are might just be an indie or aspiring indie game developer just trying to get their first character walking with a run walk blend space, we're not really gonna be hooking up a mocap suit anytime soon. But it's
Right.
it's that it's just like right there if you did have that, you know.
Yeah. So a couple of questions, just logistics questions about the our Unreal Engine C++ developer course, the big course that we have that we're updating to UE5. A couple of questions on that. The new content isn't on Udemy yet, but the new content is, I believe, on the GameDev.tv site if you have the course over on there. But it will be on all places in the next couple of weeks. The first 3 sections that are being redone, and then Stephen's going to be working on the Toon Tanks remaster in the next few weeks or month or so. Getting into that. So if you own it, you get all the updated content. That's the way we roll. So you get all the remastered content. So it's coming soon. A couple of people asking, well, should I wait for the new content? You don't need to. All of the content is still good and relevant. You'll still learn Unreal. You'll still learn programming. It's just the new content will have some new sections. So you should, at the very least, come back to those when they drop so that you can check those out as well and do even more sections and more learning. But with pretty much all courses that we create, even if there's a new version of the engine out, it's very, very uncommon, very unlikely that the new version is going to be so different that the old content doesn't work or doesn't make sense or teaches you bad habits. It's going to be, as Stephen was talking about before, with the conversion from UE4 to UE5 for projects, a couple of things here and there. But you shouldn't ever be concerned that, oh, goodness, I'm learning in an old version of the course. The course is still great. You're learning what you need to learn. So no worries on that one. Okay, cool. Stephen, we haven't talked a huge amount about Nanite. And this popped into my head because when we were talking about mobile, I think there's a little bit of relevance for the whole, is the nanite technology going to help mobile? Perhaps you could tell us in a little bit more detail your understanding of nanite, and how, if someone's been using sort of LOD or level of detail, the relationship there. Is it, in terms of workflow, is it much different, or is it just kind of saving us a step? Can we really have thousands of million polygon objects in our scene and it's going to be amazing? Is it a bit of a hype just to sort of help workflows, or is it a game changing, the world will never be the same again?
Yeah, I think it's definitely game changing. But it's more of it's kind of a feature. It's like a built-in feature now. It's like if it's enabled, you have it. It's not like something you have to actively work to make work. It's one of those kind of check the check boxes and you have it. But you do also need to have, like, if you want millions of polygons, you need a mesh with millions of polygons. Like, you need the assets, which they're providing, the Quixel mega scans and stuff like that, right? But I don't know if it's going to be something you can use for mobile. I don't think I understand that low level of the technology enough to say yes, it's going to be something. I wouldn't think so, but I don't know. But on next gen consoles and PCs, you will be able to have literally millions and billions of polygons on, like, in your scene. Like, the days of normal maps being over, I don't think we're there, because as far as I understand, I think that nanite meshes have to be static. So your character is going to still be a skeletal mesh. It's still going to have all the different material PBR textures, the normal map, and the low poly version, and the level of detail meshes. And I think all of that stuff is still relevant. All of those skills are still going to be relevant for a long time. But nanite does allow us to have these environments where it's like the technology allows us to have so many different polygons, but it's able to render those and do the bookkeeping in a more efficient way so that you can actually have the uh, billion polygon scene and only render the pixels in such a way that the screen and the renderer can handle it. So I haven't gotten super deep into the technology of how that works, but that's what it sounds like. Is you can have a scene with millions or billions of polygons, but I don't think you're going to have like a walking character that's a million polygons. At
Mm,
least not.
yeah.
And as far as mobile, I don't think mobile can do it, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. I see it. I see it from a, us humble indie game developer hobbyists or solo indie game developers. I think it's really handy, but it's not going to change the fact that we need to be good at programming and gameplay and having assets that are interesting and, doing good level layout, etc. So it's not yet at the point where you can just click and, oh, my game has been made. And I think anyone who's a blender or a 3D artist, I think there was a little bit of, I know when we're talking to Grant about this, Grant Abbott, who works on our Blender courses, there was questions from the art community about, am I still going to have a job? Is this going to make what I do redundant, etc.? And it's not, I don't see it as a game changer from that point of view. You're still going to have to optimize your assets. You're still going to need to pay attention to your poly count, because
Mhm.
the more geometry you have, the harder it is to edit in your 3D package. The bigger textures are, the bigger the files are. There's a lot to say about being efficient and creating good art with well placed polygons. I don't think it's going to lead to laziness and sloppy. Well, it may lead to laziness and sloppiness. I can't speak to others out there, but I don't think it's going to undermine being a good artist. Not just yet. We're not at that point yet.
No, and I personally don't believe we'll ever get to that point. I don't think we'll ever get to the point where an artist does not have to do their job efficiently. It's kind of like a programmer should do their job efficiently, even in the days of quantum computing that may come in the near future, where the time complexity of your algorithms becomes irrelevant. I think that's not something that we should aspire to, nor will we ever be able to just be arbitrarily inefficient in anything that we do. And just like you make a great point about just the size of the files alone. We can't just pass around billion polygon geometries into our repos, or maybe you don't have a repo. Maybe you email it to your colleagues and you're like, okay, here's the next mesh. It's kind of not something that's in the realm of possibility right
Mm,
now. and
yeah.
and things do have to be modeled efficiently. You have to get the retopology correctly in order to properly skin something to a mesh. Otherwise it's not going to morph correctly. And so yeah, I don't think we'll get to the point where an artist's job will ever be obsolete. But we will have more hacks and things that will allow us to get photorealistic things easily, thanks to the algorithms being shared with us. But that photorealism is not necessarily the be all end all for technology.
Yeah.
Sometimes stylized is better.
Yeah, I agree. After a while, photorealism no longer becomes nifty or interesting or different. So this is the thing, using Quixel and Quixel Bridge. I think it's really super convenient to get the Quixel assets into your project. It's amazing. I think there's going to be a lot of skill in how do we apply shaders, post processing, treatment to those assets to make them not look like photorealistic Quixel assets. And one of the things that we're playing around with, when we're looking at how do we do just a simple level using Quixel objects, is to color match, which is very easy to do. If you've got, say, a rock wall which is very cool, like very gray and blue, and then you bring one in that's more desert, more sort of red, it's pretty easy to get there and like click and change things so that they then look like they match. This one becomes more red or this one becomes more blue. So that part is really easy, but they still look like photorealistic rock walls. I think if we and we start to get more assets, plugins, third-party things that allow us to go click and have that change a little bit, change the shader or change the treatment on it, so it then looks more cartoony or looks more stylized or looks more painterly, etc. I think that's where we're going to see more power and more deviation in, okay, what can you do now? So if anyone's out there looking for what's an opportunity in the market, maybe you're a clever shader programmer, I think now's the time to have the whole, hey, you want to make your Quixel objects, Megascan objects look different? Come buy my thing. So I think that's one of the great opportunities at the moment with the whole UE5. If you're a content creator, it's quite interesting. All right, what other questions have we got here? Tim, have you spotted any questions? Haven't heard from you for a while. Is your internet working? You're called in on your phone, aren't you? Good Lord.
I'm on my phone, yeah, and it's almost dead.
You know what? Do you want me to write a letter to the governor of Florida? Dear Governor, whatever his name is, dear Governor, probably Republican, could you please do something about Tim's internet? Probably. Well, sorry,
no,
I know that you've
happen.
been. I was going to make a political joke there, but let's not go there. Too soon.
We're live, Rick. You need to be careful.
Yeah, they're listening.
I've seen a few people ask about VR in Unreal. Stephen, do you have anything to say on that? Do you know it's VR friendly, right? Like everything is these days.
Yeah, VR is kind of just another one of those features that's like it's there and it's pretty easy to set up. It's kind of built in at this point. There's really nothing special about VR other than the gear that you're using to display it.
Right.
The gameplay programming is going to be very much similar. I don't say the same because you do have to approach the design a little bit differently. The assets that you use they're also not the same level of quality. But that being said, it's not very different to create a VR project as opposed to a non-VR project. As far as like anything new, I haven't heard anything new on the VR front that's not already there.
But you can make VR stuff in Unreal, no problem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in fact, GameDev has a VR Unreal course, right? Doesn't Sam teach that one?
It is, yeah. We have
VR,
Unreal
C++.
VR. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's a little bit old now. I think some of the principles are still good, but I think some of the technology, technology's moved on a little bit. But with the Oculus, there's a lot of opportunities. The Oculus, I'm looking at it in my cupboard. I can never remember the something 2. What is it? The Oculus something 2.
The Quest.
Sorry, the Quest. Yeah, Quest 2. Yeah, there's a lot of excitement, and we were talking last week with a lady who's very knowledgeable about XR. So just all things R, I guess, the VR, the AR, the XR. And there's a lot of hype around it, a lot of excitement around it. And I think, again, anyone out there saying, I'm really interested in this game development shtick, I'm really interested in getting better at doing stuff. If you're passionate about VR, AR, XR, then it's a good thing to invest in now. It's not bleeding edge. It's not the latest and greatest excitement. It was 5 years ago that people were like, oh, this is great. Even before that, people have been pumped about VR related stuff. But I think now is a sweet spot. There's enough tools out there. There's probably enough headsets out there. There's enough opportunity that if you're passionate about it, then just go for it. Really double down on it and invest in it. But if you're not really passionate about it, if you're not using headsets yourself, if you're not spending a lot of time in it, then it's probably something you can say, don't go force yourself to do it if it's not your thing. But either engine, Unity or Unreal, I think are going to be just great for VR type stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like investing right now in learning in it, because we are, we're not at Ready Player One just yet. We're not like sight, smell, touch, all the physical sensations where you can't tell that you're in VR yet.
Stephen, don't even suggest a smell VR. That would be like guaranteed. It's like, welcome to Smellathon. You're walking around. You know how long that would be, all a matter of 2 seconds before the fart app would be out there. And it was like, you're
Oh
saying,
no.
hey, Stephen, come play this new little game I've worked on. Oh, this looks great. Plug that in there, plug that up there. And then 10 seconds later, it's like, you're throwing your headset on the ground. I don't wish smell VR on anyone. I don't think that would be fun.
I was thinking running through a field of, perfumey flowers. I had no idea that the first thing.
Okay. Yeah,
the first thing
I had no idea that people would go and make bad smells. Maybe there
Of
has to be.
course.
Well, this is Elon Musk talks about how we should be more scared of AI than we are. There's
Mhm.
people who are clever, but they're not as clever as they think they are. And it's not the small scale AI, the AI that helps do a particular task, but it's the broad, it's linking it all together. And you're
Mhm.
talking about, oh no, people would be sensible and not have that in their game, but AR machine learning is going to take over. Before you know it, there'll be no beautiful smelling fields of poppies. Well, probably a bad example, but there'd be no nice smelling. Why do
Nice
poppies pop into
calming
your head?
poppies.
Yeah, I was going to say roses. And I'm like, you don't have fields of roses. What's the next flower? Poppies. Hang on, fields of poppies. I've been watching too many TV shows set in Colombia. But anyway,
Yeah.
at some point, the robots are going to take over, and we'll be wearing our headsets and just smelling all manner of things that aren't appropriate. So anyway,
Yeah. Will be
deviation there.
noses in a vat. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
As soon as Skynet
We
happens,
are
it's
living
going to
in a
be.
simulation. I'm getting more and more convinced that there's a possibility that we are all living in a simulation. Neil deGrasse Tyson? I
Mhm.
think so. Neil deGrasse Tyson. When he starts talking about, there's a very high probability, then, he knows a thing or two. It's not just the crazies that are talking about it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think
Oh
I've
yeah.
ranted to you about that topic, Stephen, about the whole simulation stuff, and blows my mind. And if there's simulations running simulations, at some point there's going to be simulation where VRs have smell vision, and
Mhm.
smell vision is going to be, farts combined with roses. It's going to be crazy. But the notion that there's simulations within simulations with simulations, there might be millions of simulations being simulated. How do we know that we're the first one? We're the original one. Anyway, we're talking about Unreal Engine 5, and maybe shouldn't get down the simulation rabbit hole.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of Unreal
Simulations.
Engine simulations,
Oh, thank you,
uh,
Tim. Thanks, Aunt Tim, for coming in and slapping us on the wrists.
we have a question from J Dubs that wants to know what are your computer specs, and do they impact your ability to use Unreal Engine fully? Like, so what are I guess what would be the minimum Unreal Engine specs? Can you run it on a crappy laptop, or what do you need to kind of use it?
Yeah, Unreal Engine 5 you can't run on a crappy laptop, but then again, crappy is kind of subjective. I could tell you the minimum specs, but the official minimum Unreal Engine specs now are probably not quite Unreal Engine minimum specs for like these cutting edge things that we're seeing now, like million polygon scenes. Unreal just recently released, I think it's called Valley of the Ancients, and it was the scene that they released, the project that they released to demo the early access release. So it's got the character and the big golem with the big sort of red fishbowl thing that you destroy. That scene has ridiculous polygons, and you probably can't run that with minimum specs. My specs are not minimum. They're it's a little bit higher end, so I'm not hampered in that way. Let's see, what do I have? I have an AMD. It's a 16 core CPU. I have 64 gigabytes of RAM. I want to say a terabyte solid state and about 7 gigabytes of hard disk space. And my GPU is it's an RTX 3070 Ti, I believe.
So you're not really minimum.
I'm not minimum. I wasn't always like this. I this is something that I had definitely had to like work towards. But
you know what I've found as well, just playing around with it. Once you get into, and I'm showing the Valley of the Ancients stuff you're talking about before. Once you start to bring in a couple of those Quixel assets and add a little bit of post processing, your computer starts to feel it, and it's a lot of it is when you're trying to play in the editor. So if you're just moving around in the editor, just working on your level, doing like they're doing here, move things, rotate, whatever, not too bad. But I found as soon as I put my character in there and said, in editor, let's play game and run around, it's like chug, 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 chug. So doesn't say you can't, it doesn't mean you can't develop your game. You just need some workflow where you say, I'm going to go through the stage where I beautify my level, have it all look amazing, place my objects, manipulate them. And then when I'm playing the game, if I want to see if it looks good, I hit play and just kind of look around. Yep, that's how I thought it should look. Great. And then if I want to play the game properly, I need to hide or disable those massive assets. So you just need a good way, get everything within one folder or one area that you can group it and say, okay, I need to just now play. Maybe your collisions are still in there, or collisions are normally attached to the object. That might not be the best way to do it, but just a way of playing that's independent of having it look good. So you get that workflow, and you can think of it a little bit of, if they're making a Pixar level, animation, that they're going through that process of rendering, which is like rendering one frame is going to take forever. So you can't just always be rendering things at super mega quality. You have to have your fast render, and then you have your proper render and your test render. So it's the same, I think, in Unreal. If you're using these assets, you're going to have to be careful about your workflow, turning things on and off.
And they are adding features to help with that, with data layers. The way I understand it is, think about if you're in Photoshop and you have a bunch of different layers, right? You're creating a logo, and like you need a circle, and like layer 1 is like just the circle, and then layer 2 is like the letters that are fitting inside the circle, right? So, and with data layers, you can have your level in layers. So it's like all these million polygon rocks could be layer rocks, and then you can sort of enable or disable that data layer. Yeah, there we go. And so they're kind of trying to help you to manage that just huge amount of data in chunks or in levels. So you could have like a small lightweight layer that you test your gameplay in, and then enable all the layers and package up to the project when you're ready to test the whole thing. So
really cool.
They're trying to help with that, and that's also helping something that the world partitioning is helping with as well.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know what's going on there on the thing, but this is all stuff that you can just make. And like I said before, we're working on just a little course to show you how to get this up and running. But any of these assets that come from the Quixel Megascan library, you can just drop in. You can have it looking like this, a little bit of treatment. And so there's going to be a lot of people saying, oh, they're showing the animation stuff now. But there's going to be a lot of people saying, wow, I'm just going to make these spectacular, beautiful worlds. And I think there's going to be a lot of computers out there saying, I didn't sign up for this. This is a lot. This isn't just some nice assets. These are like AAA massive, the detail in these is just gigantic. Look what you can do as well. Just so easy playing around. Stephen, I don't know, because I didn't spend a lot of time in UE4 playing with the landscape tool, and my mind is a bit skewed by the Unity terrain tool. But when I was playing around with UE5 recently, just getting in there and getting the mesh. So like in there, they're putting down a shrub, just being able to place down shrubs, being able to change the up and down the geometry of the landscape, being able to paint on your textures. It's all just really tight, just so nice, easy to use and smooth. Has there been a difference? I don't know if you use the landscape tool much, but has there been a difference from UE4 to UE5? Did that get an upgrade, or has it always been awesome and I'm just such a Unity guy I didn't know about it?
It's always been pretty good. It's not very much different in UE5. They didn't really do a whole lot to change it. They've changed it a little bit over the versions, but it wasn't like a major overhaul as far as I know in the latest. But yeah, it's always been pretty cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
covered it in one of my blueprint courses, doing some terrain, and it's kind of amazing how you can just paint. It's like they're moving more towards adding, artistic capabilities to the engine, like in the engine itself, and it's not like you're not gonna, if you're an artist who uses Maya or Blender, you're not gonna just like throw away, uninstall Blender now. But it's
Yeah.
nice to have the ability to add those touches.
And we were talking, if anyone hasn't played around with the Quicksaw Bridge, it was just on this preview video that we're looking at here, an Unreal official video. This is all the stuff you get. It's just in there. It's free. It's huge. It's quite cool.
It's
So
crazy.
yeah, you
Yeah,
just
if
grab
you
the
want to do
stuff, drop it
something,
in.
if you want photorealism, you can create this photorealistic type stuff pretty effortlessly. Well, I say effortlessly. You do need to probably invest in some hardware to get something on this scale, but actually throwing it
Yeah,
together they're making it a lot easier. So
yeah.
it's
So
now going to be a matter of how creative are you with this stuff.
the original question of what specs do you need? If you want to be doing Quixel stuff, you need a meaty desktop, I think, or a
I'd say
pretty
at least
new
like
laptop.
16, yeah, like at least like 16 gigs of RAM. And well, I shouldn't throw numbers out there, but we can
But
look
I
up and see.
will.
I had 16 gigs of RAM, and I was having trouble even in Photoshop. Photoshop was taking up 8 or 9 gigs with me the other day, so I would say go higher than that if you can.
Definitely, if you can. I mean, let's see. I have 64, but you don't need 64. I'm probably a little overkill, and I can still run it. I can run it pretty smoothly. Like the Valley of the Ancients, I could run pretty smoothly, but I don't think you need what I have. Let's see.
Yeah, but I mean, with all these things, you don't have to go and use the massive assets. If you want to get good at learning Unreal, then whatever computer you've got, if you can install it and open it, then that's good. Learn the fundamentals, get in Blueprint and learn how to make things move, learn how to make the gameplay.
Yeah.
Just continue to learn. Don't be blocked by that. Don't think, well, to even touch Unreal, I need to go and upgrade my PC, and I'll do that, I don't know,
No.
at some point in the future. Don't be blocked by that at all. Any computer that allows you to watch this nonsense that we're doing right now should be able to run Unreal Engine and at least get you in there and doing stuff. Just the thing to be wary of is the as soon as you put any big assets in there, it's going to, or lots of assets or lots of particles, it's going to be, not happy.
Yeah, I'm not making million polygon scenes personally right now. I mean, I've opened up demo projects to see what it looks like. And the truth is, the tutorial series that you'll see coming out from us, we're probably not going to do like super high-end requirement scenes because, that makes it kind of, there's a barrier to entry and not everyone can do it. And it's not really necessary to
Yeah.
learn the engine. We use reasonable assets that, just like an average
Yeah.
developer with like 8 gigs of RAM can use, because yeah, that stuff is cool. And if you have the high-end hardware, you can drag it in and say, look at me, I have this realistic scene and all, but it's not by any means necessary to learn the engine. And there's a lot of good stuff that you can bring in with just, something like 8 gigs of RAM. And I don't want to throw out how much money you should spend on a machine, but you don't have to spend a fortune on your machine
Yeah.
to get into it.
Someone asked me about my specs. So just super quickly, 32 gigs. My computer, I had the oldest laptop for ages, and I just upgraded about a year ago. So I got 32 gigs and a Ryzen 7 3800X processor, and I can't see my graphics card on here at the moment. I need to look somewhere else for that, but reasonably newish NVIDIA has a 7 in it, so a 2070 maybe. So anyway, just because you asked.
Yeah, and I'm looking up mine as well because I can tell you. I know I told you the specs, but let me just Let me just tell you exactly what I got.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's, as I was saying before, don't be blocked by specs. You can totally get in there and be productive and constructive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think yeah, the other question that was asked right at the very top of the show that I don't think we got to was I think, Stephen, you and I have talked about this, and we found this while working on courses, is that preview 1 for UE5 had some issues to it. So there was the early stuff and previews, and then we've seen preview 1, preview 2, and now sort of official launch. I know preview 1 had issues, preview 2 didn't seem to have as many issues.
Yeah.
And so the question was, this new official launch, the 5.0.0.0.0, what's our confidence, from the little bit that we've played around with it, confidence that it's going to be stable and bug free, in your opinion? Should people be diving in right now and saying, hoorah, it's good to go?
Yeah, I think so, because when early access and the previews came out, they straight up told us, don't make anything production for this. This is for so you can see what it looks like. It has bugs. Like literally, there was a pop-up that said, "Don't use this for something serious. It has bugs." And today they're saying, this is the official release. It's production ready. It's battle tested in Fortnite. Here you go. So my level of confidence is pretty high. I went ahead and upgraded my multiplayer course project to it, not without making a backup copy first. But I still, I don't trust it that much, but I do trust it enough to say, I don't expect having to go back to early access or Unreal 4 or something like that. I feel pretty confident about it.
Yep. Awesome. Cool. So I think that's all the questions. We've answered many of them, not all of them, many of them. And so good time for us to wrap it up. For everyone who's watched the whole way through, thank you for persisting with our technology issues. We're getting closer and closer to the holy grail of not looking like fools. At some point, we will get there. Some stage it'll be glorious. I think we've figured out the thing that was blocking us today, and hopefully you've got some good knowledge out of this conversation and talking about Unreal Engine 5. You can check out Stephen's new course. That's not a GameDev.tv course. It's a Stephen TV course. I'm putting the link in the chat again now, and in there and in there. Let me put it in the right spot. So there is a link in the chat. Oh, it did appear in 2 times. Also, make sure you check out Stephen over on YouTube at Druid Mechanics. Search for that and jump on over there. And as we talked about throughout today's conversation, Stephen's in a bunch of the GameDev.tv courses as the primary instructor or secondary instructor. We've got our Unreal Engine Blueprint first-person shooter course, which is a great complement to Stephen's C++ multiplayer shooter course that he's created as well. So check out those if you're interested in getting more into Unreal. So, Tim, thanks for joining us, mostly in spirit, and to ask some awesome questions while I was wrestling with technology. And Stephen, thanks so much for being here today. Super cool talking to you, and thanks for your wisdom about Unreal Engine 5.
Hey, thanks you guys, Tim and Rick. It's always a pleasure. Had a great time, and it was a ton of fun talking about UE5.
Awesome. And for all of you watching, thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next week, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you could do us a favor of clicking the thumbs up on this YouTube video, just so everyone knows that's the right video, not the other one that was the wrong one on the stream, just give us a thumbs up. That'd be great. If you've enjoyed it, don't give us a thumbs up if you thought it was garbage. You probably wouldn't be here if you did think that, though. You would have dropped out a while ago. So thanks, everyone, and we will see you again next week.